You're listening to
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
All right, Mike, quick pod today. Nice, easy 2023, 2024 type win over the Detroit Pistons yesterday. The Celtics looked like a well-rested team, played like a well-rested team, shot like a well-rested team, and we had some interesting rotations we can certainly talk about um, within that game. But any main takeaways from you to kick this off? Anything else you want to talk about? I know there was no Jason Tatum available. So the floor is yours, Mike.
Well, my main takeaway, Jim, is
Oh,
that Peyton
God.
Pritchard's not that good. You know, he put up all these points, but if he didn't play with all this talent, he wouldn't be playing anywhere. He's not that good, Jim.
Well, it's an interesting comment, Tony. Um, you know, I thought with the white guy, you would be much more enthusiastic about his skill set. But Brian Scalabrine believes he'd average like 27 and 8 if he was starting on a kind of a team without not that much talent. Mike, what is your thought on that? Honestly, if Pritchard, let's say he was a starter on, the Pistons or something or a team like that.
I think more realistic would probably be like Utah, right? Or Washington. The Pistons
They have Ivy. Yeah.
with Kate Cunningham and Ivy. Yeah, he'd be maybe in the same spot. But I think with what we're seeing, yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't
he
know
could
about 20.
he could probably play on Orlando significant minutes.
They could use him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think his numbers might dip a little bit in Orlando with the amount of offense that flows through Pablo and Franz, but he would certainly add an element that they're missing. A guy like him might be the missing piece in Orlando long term, actually, because they're a real young and up and coming team. But as we think about bad teams, I could see him scoring, around 20, a little over 20 points a game efficiently. I don't see why not. He definitely seems to have that talent. Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I'm not sure it's just bad teams, and maybe he doesn't score 20 a game, but I even look at a team like Houston, and I know Van Fleet's there and he's doing what they need for them, but he's a better player than Van Fleet right now and would be a great fit on the style of play that Houston plays. And he'd get up and he'd give you great ball pressure and he'd extend the floor for those other guys, those athletic wings that they have going to the basket. So the play he's turning himself into, and this is where the Celtics are so fortunate, where they have him for what, another 3 4 years on this contract, where he's getting paid 4 million a year, 5 million a year, um, because he can certainly, we're talking about bad teams, but I think there are contenders out there that he'd be pretty good for, and he'd be quite helpful for.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's a good one. I'm not sure if he's past Van Fleet yet. I mean, that's a big jump. Van Fleet, I think he dropped 38 a couple nights ago, but
Yeah,
um,
no, you maybe that is too big of a jump, but
but the fact that he can bring it up is pretty incredible to me.
yeah,
The fact that you can say that, and I think it's people who don't watch every night. They just don't understand. They think it's just like crazy Celtic fans, but if you're actually watching and you're invested in the team, you're seeing a player who's not just scoring. He's scoring in different ways. We touched on this the other day, and I'm making fun of Tony Maz because it's just annoying to hear some of the local media over the last couple of years that cover this team and the way they talk about the Celtics, where they really don't have a clue. I mean, these are the same guys who used to say, Jason Tatum didn't have it in him to ever win a championship. These are the same guys who years ago, when Jason Tatum was only 23 or 24 years old, were saying they should trade him to the Washington Wizards for Roy Hachimura and Bertans. They were taking calls like that on their show, and they continue to just have like these crazy talking points that are just horrible. Um, and Pritchard is a big reason why they won last night, as we talked about last night. His offense in the second half, and that second quarter by the Celtics with him and other guys. They hit so many shots, and they were doing it everywhere. They were going to double big, and they were scoring inside, throwing it into the post to Cornette
Mhm.
and Porzingis, and they were scoring effectively in there. And then the Celtics, for only the 10th time in NBA history, had two guys score 7 threes in the game, and it wasn't Tatum and Brown. It was Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. So
Yeah,
that's how
yeah,
deep
we're
and
like,
awesome this team is.
who was it a week ago when neither one of them scored really at all? Was that Milwaukee?
Yeah,
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 where
yep.
yeah, it just shows like how this game is so interesting. I was even watching the game last night, and I know it's not always perfect, the offense, obviously, and they have their nights like they had in Memphis where maybe they did take too many threes, or they
Absolutely.
certainly didn't shoot well enough, and I think part of that was tired legs. But with the amount of skilled players they have, when you really start thinking about this, and you have Pritchard, you have White, you have Holiday, you have Brown, you have Tatum, and the list goes on, Horford, Porzingis. Like, how do you get these guys touches and shots and opportunities unless you kind of play the style that the Celtics play? They're all kind of given the green light if they're open. They're given the green light to drive. If they get the mismatch. Um, you know, I wonder what if when the people that complain about how the Celtics play and the style or whatever, do they really want to go back to isolation basketball? Like, is that what
God
they're
no.
yearning for? Because that's the alternative, really, right? It's
And watch
because you don't have
Houston play.
post-up players anymore. It would be isolation basketball.
It, yeah, yeah. Like watch the Houston Rockets play offense, and it's going to bring you back. It's going to bring you back to the things that held the Celtics back every year. They're a
Yeah.
young team; they don't get it yet. Maybe Ime is not a great offensive coach, and that's where he's got to
I think
improve.
there's a
That's a
conversation there to
great
be had
team.
about that.
What's
Yeah.
gonna what? Yeah,
Because
they're a great team, but what's going to hold them back is the same thing that held back the Celtics. They're going to turn the ball over too much. They're going to too much ISO basketball, and they don't play together on the offensive end. Um,
they're also
so
really young.
Mazzulla was able to. Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
the Celtics were really young too, right?
Young with a ton of experience. They were young with a ton of
That's
playoff
true. That's
experience,
true. Yep.
so I think it's completely different scenarios. Um, but yeah,
But
no,
I guess
you're
like my
right.
point
Yeah.
overall, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not just Houston. Like you travel a little south to Philadelphia, and it's not too much different.
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks have their moments where they move the ball, but there's certainly moments where the ball just sticks with Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns. Often, actually. Milwaukee, it's not ball movement that makes them go.
Oh, they're all ISO.
Yeah, so like there's a lot of this around the league. It's better than it has been in past years for sure. Teams definitely move the ball now, and there's more kind of equal opportunity offense. Not that the Celtics are completely equal opportunity. Certainly Tatum will take his, and Brown will take his, but there's more here than there is in most places when you have two stars, and I keep you keep hearing about how they play and the too many threes, and I can understand that argument to some extent. Like maybe there are times where I certainly think there are times where they take bad threes early in the clock when if they continue to move the ball, they might have an opportunity for a better three or just a better shot altogether. But I even though think that's limited compared to past years. Um, I just I don't want to turn this pod into an argument over style, but I sit there and watch it and I don't yearn for the days of someone just holding the ball and pounded it into the deck and trying to get to their spot um, and find space that way. I like this a little better. But that's just me. Mike, in the game last night, the thing that was so interesting is oftentimes the Celtics were out there with two guys. They played two bigs. They had a lot of times where you would consider kind of two non-shooters on the floor, whether it be Jordan Walsh and like Luke Cornett or something like that, or at least one non-shooter on the floor. And they still were really excellent, offensively, getting whatever they wanted against a Pistons team that I thought tried hard, but just had no ability to contain them whatsoever. I thought, the double big offense that they put out there, you know, it was really effective, and it does a couple things. Obviously, it helps you on the glass. I think it gives you spacing in other ways when Porzingis is out there. Then you can put like Cornette in the dunker spot, and it kind of makes things interesting with the role opportunities you have. And the thing that has killed the Celtics so much this year, the points in the paint, they were like non-existent. The Pistons couldn't get anything going there. What are your thoughts on what you saw with that last night?
I definitely thought it impacted the defense with the points in the paint, and it really harmed the Pistons because on top of it, the Pistons were having a poor shooting night, so they were able to shrink the floor while also um, the Pistons just couldn't hit anything from outside for the majority of that
Yeah,
game.
they could not.
So that certainly, I mean, hid some probably deficiencies with the double bigs, but I do think when Tatum and Brown, if one of those guys are out, this is your best go-to. I think talent-wise, right now, with creating lineups too, this might be your best go-to. To have this as an option, especially on the defensive end. But what I was impressed with last night was not just on the defense, the intentionality of going to the basket a little bit more, where the threes they were getting, I do think were a little bit different than in Memphis. They weren't passed around the perimeter. You saw a lot of inside out, and it led to some really good looks in the second and third quarter in particular. But
Oh,
I
the
think what
give and
set
go
that,
play with Cornette, Porzingis passed into it. So Cornette passed to Porzingis, cut, Porzingis gave it back to him, and then on the fly,
yeah,
be kind of over his head pass Cornette to White in the corner was really cool. It was
was
just
really
really cool.
cool.
Yeah.
But I think what set that up though was in the first quarter, when the shot wasn't falling, they allowed Cornette to go inside. They were looking to get him the ball in the paint. They were looking to allow him to try and score, and other guys were driving um, with the intention of finishing at the basket. And so they finished that quarter on like a 12-2 run, and all 12 of those points were either from free throws, being fouled at the hoop, or layups. And I really thought that opened up the game for them. And we saw a lot of that last year where they would use the paint and they would use their bigs to open things up, and then the 3-point shots would come. And I think this year they've gone away from that a little bit. And I think that's a style of play that really helps the Celtics when they use their bigs inside, when they use their wings inside, and they actually go to the hoop uh, a lot more. It really opens things up for them because they're such a 3-point shooting team that when teams have to cover up the paint, they're able to move the ball inside out. And I think that's a good way for them to play. I really do. I also think it helped them in the playoffs quite a bit last year.
Yeah. Well, having that depth definitely did too. And they're four bigs, Porzingis, Horford, and Cater and Cornette, they can all play. They're all really
Yeah,
good. So you want to maximize your talent, and you want to find ways to get them all on the court so Russ doesn't take over, or certainly Cater's um spot where his inexperience just doesn't continue to shine through in case you need him. So games like this against Detroit, they get another like 2 or 3 day game, 2 or 3 day break, and then they get the Wizards, and then back, home and away series against the Bulls. None of these teams play defense that they're playing either. I mean, the Celtics, the
yeah,
Pistons, Wizards, and the Bulls, the next 4 games isn't exactly murderer's row. Um, it's good opportunity to kind of get these guys out there and get them minutes and um, keep them fresh. Which brings us to Tatum. It's interesting. You had 4 days off, um, and he certainly didn't look great against Memphis. He looked great the night before against Milwaukee. You see him at times rubbing his knee after, when he goes down to the ground. So I think it's definitely something that's real and is bothering him. Um, they had him not play, so by the time he plays the Wizards, it's at least a week off. And my mindset is like your next game is against the Wizards. After that, you still have like it's another 2 day break before you play Chicago, I think, 2 or 3 day break. If he's not 100% to go against the Wizards, why not just give him, a week and a half, 2 weeks off here? And ultimately, you're missing only 2 or 3 games against teams that really you don't have to worry about if he's in the lineup or not.
I mean, if he's hurt at all, I mean, you look at the schedule for the remainder of this month, you could probably sit him out the whole month. You look at the teams that they're playing. There's a chance the Celtics might not lose again until 2025. Um, so yeah, I would obviously your job as the coach gets really hard, Jason Tatum, because my impression with that guy is that I'm playing.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
that.
get
Yeah.
out of my way, coach. And so somebody needs to be able to tell him you're not, you're not playing. So I don't envy that. Hopefully it doesn't have to come to that. He's okay. But if he's hurt at all, there is no reason for him to play. There's no, I mean, I'm sure he wants to accomplish MVP of the league. That's not happening this season with the numbers Jokic is putting up. So, but yeah, like I wouldn't play him, and I don't envy the guy that would have to tell him he's not playing either.
Yeah, and I guess Mazzulla said he worked out yesterday. He looks pretty good. He'll
Yeah,
have a small workout today. In that he's improving and getting better. So it doesn't sound like the super concern. He said it's nothing serious. Um, but there's no even if it's not serious, just continue to let him rest. Right? Like it's a wizard,
exactly.
it's a wizard. Um, and I know he part of his mindset, like you talked about, is to play all the time, and he has said before that he thinks it's important, and I
For
respect this a
fans,
ton. Yeah, when he goes to an away building, um, play like the Wizards, that he's there and he plays because someone paid a lot of money to go see him play that day, and I truly respect that mindset. But he's also played a lot of games over the last few seasons, especially when you start adding in the Olympics on top of the playoff runs. He's got to have logged more minutes than anybody in the league over the last 5 seasons, certainly over the last two. So, you know, when there's opportunity, especially for this extended rest, it's like a long all-star break. Um,
yeah, I mean,
Might
there's
as well
such
give
an
it to him.
advantage to not making this Final Four or Final Eight, whatever it is, to
Yeah.
the play-in tournament. That I'm like glad the Celtics didn't, knowing that Tatum's got a little injury here. Why not take advantage of it? I know it's a big story, and I don't understand why it's a big story in LA when you have a 40-year-old superstar. But LeBron's not playing. They're taking this as an extended All-Star break. They're having him. He's probably going to sit out their next game, and it's going to be like 10 days off. I think that's smart. I think that's how you manage your superstar that's 40 years old. Tatum played all summer long. Well, he didn't really get to play because of that idiot
No,
coach, but you get my point.
I
So
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of this, the NBA Cup, the Atlanta Hawks make it intriguing to me.
Oh God, it's awesome.
They're a good team, and
They
you feel a
are
little bit less badly about that Celtics loss, even though you go back and you replay that game in your head. They let they let the hand off the rope as much as Atlanta took it. They gave it away in that game. But Dyson Daniels, he's one of my favorite non-Celtics players to watch in the NBA. He's just all over the place. He's always taken on the team's best player. He really frustrated Jalen Brunson to no end in the quarterfinal game in Madison Square Garden. I know Trae Young was great offensively, but Daniels just he was all over Brunson, and now you've seen him do it to Donovan Mitchell. You've seen him do it to Brunson. You've seen him do it to Tatum. So
Yep.
these are different type players, different type size. He has great size,
That
great
team's
length,
finally
great
healthy.
speed. His offensive game is finally coming together. And we say finally healthy, but he's only 21. I mean,
But I'm
he's a
talking about that
baby.
team.
Yeah,
That
yeah. Um,
entire operation, Jim.
yep.
I think they're legit. I mean, I
Hunter's
don't
coming off the
know.
bench. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that, and that's a guy that we don't talk about. Hunter, everybody talks about Pritchard, six man of the year.
yeah,
Absolutely. But look at Hunter's numbers.
yeah. He's
He's
been
up
really
at
good.
17, 18 a game off the
Yeah,
bench.
yep. Impactful minutes
And,
too. Yeah,
yeah, and then Johnson, his ability to rebound and defend and finish at they their offensive rebounding, and then they do have a guy who's led a team to the Eastern Conference Finals, and Trae Young, who I think is playing really good basketball this year, who seems to fit in with a real team built around. Like, it seems like they can hide some of his defensive deficiencies, which of course will get attacked in the playoffs. But um, they're built well. They're finally built like a real team, and I texted you this. I think they're like this year's Indiana Pacers team. That's who they remind me of. They're going to
play a
come
lot
up and
different though. The
they
start
play
is
a lot
way
different,
different.
but
Yeah,
they're going to. What my point is, they're going to catch people by surprise. They're going to
yeah.
beat somebody in the playoffs.
Well, they really could, and especially if there's an injury or something. But the only team I would think I would say they could not upset in the first round. They could challenge the Celtics and make it a 6-7 game series. I think they're that type of fighting team.
Oh, they're
But
not beating Cleveland either.
they
They're not.
um probably not. But I wouldn't be so stunned if they upset them. I just think they
I
have
think
that
Evan
in them.
Mobley would. Yeah, I think Evan
Yeah.
Mobley would just dominate
Well,
that
they do have
series.
a real problem at the center position. Capella's not who he was anymore, and I think he's becoming a liability for them. And so, like, if they'll
Not on the offensive end, though. I think it's the defensive end he's a liability.
offensive end, he's okay, but he's not what he used to be. He's not the guy
Yeah.
that you come off a screen and you can just throw the ball as high as you can for a lob to him. He can't do that anymore. So if I was the general manager over there and I'm looking to improve that team somewhere, that's the position I'm really trying to fight to find somebody. Because
Well, there's a center in Toronto that makes a lot of sense for Atlanta, right?
which one? Jakob Pertl?
Um, yeah, absolutely. Don't you think? He'd be
Offensively,
like the
he'd be
perfect.
helpful. Yeah, offensively, he'd be helpful. I watched him get killed by Bam Adebayo last night. Um,
Oh,
just having no ability to stay in front of him.
with his size, that's not
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah.
not good.
So
That's not a good sign.
yeah, so like that part of it, I think he's really slow to foot. Um, but yeah, no, they're an interesting team. And speaking of Miami, Mike, as we want to wrap up this pod, and we'll do a quick advice section. Jimmy Butler's, you know, on the trading block, the
Hmm.
guy that people like to call a warrior, only playing in some games. Um, barely played in the fourth quarter last night, not that they really needed him. Is he going to be into another one of these guys, long line of guys that all of a sudden, you know, goes to a contender and he's playing big minutes and doing what he needs to do after basically not showing up for his team for the first half of the season, which is he's basically not done for Miami this year. He hasn't been good, and he's just not available enough.
Yeah, yeah. I hate these stories, and it's unfortunate too because he's a guy that I always felt like was easy to root for, at least since he came to Miami. He had issues in Minnesota, certainly, but he was the type of guy that I got to be honest, Jim. The seasons where Miami beat the Celtics, I hated them during those series, but when they weren't playing the Celtics, I really liked them because they were guys. They were all like, I don't know, just guys who weren't good enough, being led by Jimmy Butler. And, this is this is crazy to me. I don't. I hate that he's doing this. It's bad for the league. It's bad for Miami. It's bad for the Celtics rivalry with Miami. And I think the unfortunate result of this is he's going to end up on a Western Conference team, whether it be Dallas or Golden State. Um, and they're probably going to play really well with him. And it's a screw job to the Miami Heat franchise. And
I don't
I
mind
don't
Pat
like.
Riley getting screwed at all. So
I
that
don't
part of it,
mind it, but
yeah.
it's not good for the NBA. It's
It's
just
not.
not.
No, it's not good. And I wonder what they try to hold out for and what's going to be the best deal. You look at like if he gets traded to Phoenix, the only thing that works is
Bradley Beal, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
like you get nothing back. It's not like Phoenix has draft picks.
No, no. And then well, that's the thing. Like none of these contenders, like Mavericks don't have any picks. I know they've been mentioned.
I think
They
Golden State does. So
does Golden State maybe, yeah. But what can they give
yeah,
up?
they had.
I don't even know
Well,
what
I
salaries
would
work.
assume it would be. I would assume it would be Andrew Wiggins' contract and maybe another right? Doesn't Andrew Wiggins make a max
I'd
contract?
have to look, but they got a match.
Yeah.
It's not like the old salary cap because Golden State's way into the tax, so they have to like the numbers need to match up.
Yeah, it has to
Yeah,
work somehow because Golden State's rumored for either Jimmy Butler or LeBron James. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah. So
assuming
it'd have to
it's going
work
to be.
somehow. The
Yeah.
last item, and so we'll see where it goes. It does sound like it will probably be a Western Conference team. Maybe there's always a possibility of an Eastern Conference team come up and surprise you. I know the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau have always lusted after Butler, and maybe some combination of Mikal Bridges and some other contract works to make that happen. Um, but you know, they haven't been mentioned. That's just my pure speculation. The last thing from me, Michael, before we do the advice, Ben Simmons, there is the tweets going around, and I just want to put this to bed quickly, where Vegas has him odds-on favorite to land with the Celtics in either a trade or a buyout.
What?
Yeah, so the trade thing, it's not happening. He makes significant money. The Celtics don't have the salaries to match in terms of players they would want to give up for him. There's no
Why
one
would
in their
God?
current
Why?
rotation that would trade for him one-on-one. So that's not happening. Number two, with the buyout under the new CBA, um, because
They
his
couldn't
salary
sign
is
him.
so high, the Celtics couldn't even sign him with a buyout. So that's it. Like he's not coming here.
Why would you want him?
And why would you want
He
him?
scored zero. He scored 0 points the other night, and he played
Yeah,
like 23 minutes.
you can't even play him in the playoffs because teams don't cover him. They just do not cover him.
You
Um,
can't play him in the regular season because he sucks.
no, I'm sure the Celtics creatively could probably do something with him during the regular season where it would be fine. Um, so like
He's
in
like
that,
Xavier Tillman on offense.
yeah. So this was going around with, obviously a different skill set, but a bit on Twitter. The only opportunity would be is if he wanted to sign here for the minimum in the offseason. And talk to me
No,
then when it's even considered. But
I'd
there is
rather
no
Drew
way he's coming
Peterson.
here.
I'd rather Drew Peterson. Let's develop him.
The uh the irony to all this is where Celtics fans have called him a coward for years, where he can't shoot. Whereas if he actually, this is the only part I would take some satisfaction in is if he came here and they finally got him to start shooting. The Sixers fans had to watch that. Oh God, I would love that. I
He
would
came
love
here and he
that.
started hitting threes.
Yeah, I don't care if he lost every other part of his game. If all of a sudden he just had the ability to shoot some, oh God, I would just laugh so hard at that.
Suddenly becomes like Bruce Bowen. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
drilling corner threes.
just a corner three guy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That would be just Philly would lose their minds. They would absolutely
That
lose
guy
their minds.
doesn't like basketball enough, Kimmy, to ever actually do that.
No, I don't think so.
Get me guys
He does love
that
Instagram stories in the off season though. Instagram
I'm
stories
sure
of
it
him
does.
working out against the chair. Um,
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to? Do we have enough time? It's 9 a.m. Do you want to save the advice for the next pod?
I can do it. I can make it quick if it's nothing
All right,
crazy.
Pastor Mike. Pastor Mike is with us. Our advice by Mike, he's keeping people out of hell as we're figuring out, even hamsters. Um, Mike,
Right.
here's a real story.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep the identities secret to protect people. But
Okay. This feels like a joke's coming. Okay. What
no,
is
this
the
is
joke?
this is actually a real story.
All right. Yeah.
In a Massachusetts workplace, in their downstairs men's room, someone took
Yeah.
a BM next to the toilet, not in the toilet, and it
A
happened.
BM.
A
What's a
bowel
BM?
movement.
I'm
A
sorry.
bowel movement.
A bowel movement.
Yes, a BM, and it happened not once, but twice.
That's disgusting.
It happened twice. Now you are the boss, Pastor Mike, of this work establishment. How do you address this? How do you get to the bottom of this? Obviously, you can't put cameras in the bathroom. That would be
No,
breaking
you
state.
cannot.
Yeah, it would be
Can't do that.
breaking state and federal law. But what do you do? Do you get like a hall monitor? Or you get one of those guys that hangs out in the bathroom and hands you a towel after you wash your hands, a paper towel or whatever, and a mint.
That's some
Like,
good ideas there, Jimmy. I mean, your advice column is pretty good. I gotta be honest.
what do you do as Pastor Mike? How do you handle this?
They're not pooping in the toilet, and they're pooping on the side of the toilet. That's what you're telling me?
Pooping on the
Just leaving their
floor
poop there?
and pooping on the floor next to the toilet.
That's disgusting. What the hell's wrong with you? That's disgusting. Um, I would take this very seriously. Okay, this is a mental health problem. I would take this extremely
Is it
seriously,
a
and I would
mental
be
health problem or is it someone out for revenge?
whatever it is.
No.
I would take this very seriously. I would call HR and let them know what's happening, and
Yep.
I would not handle this with caution. When you talk about having a hall monitor, if you can't afford one, you got to be the hall monitor if you're the supervisor. I'd be watching people as they go into the bathroom, and as they leave the bathroom, I'd be going in to check. That's that's how serious I would take this. And at the staff meeting, I would talk about how this is unacceptable behavior. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. And when we find out who's pooping on the floor, that you're going to lose your job. You're going to be fired. Like that's my advice. Like that's how I would handle the situation. And to the person that's doing it, get help. Get help because that's disgusting.
Would pooping on the floor get you to hell?
Nah, it's not going to get you to hell. That's not going to get you to hell. I don't think so, right? What do you think?
Oh,
I
you're
don't
you're
think
the
so.
pastor, you know. You're the one
No,
that's
that's
preaching. I really
I
this is
focus
above
on
my pay grade. You
yeah,
you
I
talked about hamsters going to hell for engaging in premarital
premarital
sex,
sex.
even though there is a marriage. So I'm wondering what this line is on pooping on the floor. Is that
Yeah, that's not a life in hell with Beelzebub. No,
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 no.
I
What
don't
is
I
the
don't think so.
what is so it's not eternity in the afterlife and hell. What is a proper punishment? Is it a crime in your mind?
I don't think it's a crime. I think it's a crime of like embarrassment when you get caught, and this is going to follow you for the rest of your life. That's the crime. Like your hell is going to be on earth, and you're going to have to pay for what you've done
You'd be
through
known
like
as the mad pooper.
yeah. And how does that help you? How does that serve you? Like if you're angry and you want to get back at your boss, there's more effective ways than this. And this really speaks to your lack of intelligence that you're doing this. And honestly, Jim, I got to think it's a young person. It's either a young person, a younger up and coming employee, or whatever, or it's somebody right at the door of retirement. Like right, like that's all I can think
Yeah,
of.
it's all right at the door of retirement that just doesn't give a shit anymore. I'm
Apparently,
not,
right?
don't excuse the pun there. Yeah,
Yeah, pun is
yeah.
intended.
Pun is intended.
Um,
Yeah.
wow, that's a different one. I got to be honest. I didn't see that being the question today, but
All
that
right.
is yeah.
So real quick, I want to segue off. If there was one NBA player, past or present, that would do that to a team, um,
Andrew Bynum,
Andrew Bynum. Oh, that's an intro. Why?
absolutely. The guy who took the ball at practice and just flung it at the hoop every time he got it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
Andrew Bynum, yeah. Either him or like Mark Blunt. He seemed like another guy who just didn't give a shit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Once he got
contract
paid,
and
yeah.
yeah, those guys kind of make sense. Okay.
Hey, um, I know this isn't part of the plot or the advice column. I forgot to bring this up at the Milwaukee game. It was nice to see Vin Baker as a basketball coach on a serious note because the way he ended his career, I don't know
Battling
if you remember.
alcoholism. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
expect to see that. Like he's a guy who kind of just disappeared. I hope he's okay. That's a really nice story
It's
because prior
yeah.
to the Celtics, he was really good. He was a really good
Oh
player.
yeah, with the Supersonics and other places, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Um, the funniest thing with him was when I remember the Celtics got him, and it was early in his tenure here, and the ESPN, like you would find out like if guys are playing back then by watching ESPN, and they would have the ticker down at the bottom of the
Mhm.
screen, and it just said uh, Vin Baker out toes. It's like
Oh
out
God.
with toes. What does that even mean?
Oh, he had a drinking problem, man.
Out toes.
Outward. They could have been more creative. I think that was
Yeah.
them saying that we're sick of you, bro.
Yeah,
We're
God.
not protecting you. I think that's what that was.
All
Oh
right.
my God.
Well, let's
All
wrap
right.
this.
Well,
We
wrap
this
it up. Go Seas.
Go see. See you later. Bye bye.
See
Hey,
ya.
Rick Pitino would be the guy that would poop on the floor. He's a real jackass. I'll see you.
Yeah, he's a real
Bye.
piece of crap. See ya.